Perhaps it may be granting, it may be stretching it a little far, but then we should understand that that is our power, that is our relevance, because what China has done is not a one-off incident on LAC. This has been a manifestation of his major power diplomacy and his neighborhood diplomacy. In major power diplomacy, he wants to wean us away from US. China wants to enroll us somehow, directly or indirectly, in its BRI. In its neighborhood policy, it wants that China should be the most preeminent power in the region, where it makes the rules for the region and it has preeminence with total disregard to the interests of others. Now, a few factors closer to the ground. Now, when we come to our LAC, we are all aware that we've had 16 rounds of talks, and out of the 7 odd friction points, we have disengaged at 5 of them, and we've established some patrolling moratorium zones, and some buffer zones have been created. The standoff at Depsang and Demchok persists. Now, please recall how the disengagement took place at PP15. The last round of talks was held in mid-July, 17th of July. And the disengagement took place in September, just a week before the SCO meet. So, the question to be understood is, this is not a military standoff alone. It is just a manifestation of a larger political intent, which is happening in the military domain. So what we have to look, when we look at the solutions to this, we have to look at larger solutions. Now, India has been wanting a status quo ante of April 2020, but when you look at the Chinese, let me quote the Chinese ambassador, what he said after PP15 disengagement, that in this phase of emergency responses, Galwan Valley incident has basically has come to an end, and the border situation is switching to normal management and control. So as far as the Chinese perception is concerned, they feel it's dusted and done. Now, there are also some media reports that some incidents of revival of insurgency in the northeast are instigated by the Chinese. Well, I would not confirm or refute. I have no authentic information about it. But this is something which our aid agencies and the security forces would have to go into. And they, well, if it's not there today, the possibility exists. Now, no analysis can be complete without considering the economic aspect. Now, we have huge trade leverage. 2020, the standoff happened. 2021, we had 43% increase in bilateral trade. We had an adverse trade balance of about $70 billion. Come to 22, in the first 6 months, there's further 43% increase. Now, there are, let's not take it as a linear thing that since we have confrontation, this should come down. There are lots of interwoven reasons into this, of inability to switch the supply chains. The Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the contracts that are given by them, you can't stop a country from taking part in this. So these are the limitations. I'm sure the country is doing enough for this, but this is the reality that we have to manage our economic relations, and we cannot break the supply chains overnight. So now let me very briefly give my views on how we can perhaps approach managing our relations with the Chinese. Now we are entering the third winter. We have huge commitment of troops, and it's a matter of pride and it's a matter of credit to our armed forces that we have managed to deter the Chinese, and in fact the Chinese themselves are hugely surprised at the resilience of the Indian armed forces and India as a nation. Now, the fact is that this cannot carry on in an ad hoc. We have to find an answer. And our commanders on ground are the best people to find the answer. That wherever we can reduce the commitment of troops by enhancing our ISR capabilities, by applying technology, by using mobile reserves, we should reduce the commitment of troops to the maximum extent possible. But this is a commitment that the nation has to bear. There is some talk of the utilization of long-range vectors, missiles, etc. being utilized. Well, they have their utility, but they have their utility in a full-blown conflict, not really in the border management postures. A lot has been said repeatedly for years. We heard it during our service all through, and I'm sure our seniors did before us, of unity in command between Army, ITBP, SSB. Well, I say that again in a different perspective. That today we heard in the first session today about the significance of ISR. We have limited ISR resources. We have limited fusion capability. We have limited analysis capability. And today, when the manpower is committed, and when the Chinese threat is not only directly on our borders, it can manifest through Nepal, it can manifest through Bhutan. So the SSB becomes another stakeholder, and we need to integrate them for operational reasons, not really for anything to do with Army wanting to increase its domain. Now, as far as the we've had a full session on technology. Now, I respect whatever was said in that session, but as a practitioner, let me give my 2 pennies worth. Number one, neither technology nor boots on ground alone can win any conflict. We have to remain cognizant of technology that is coming. We have to adapt it, but there will always be a mix of mature technologies that we have, emerging technologies, and future technology. The blend has to be country specific. It depends on the terrain where you are employing, the task that you have, what is your technical prowess to absorb it, to create it, and how much money do you have in your pocket. So let's be mindful. All these words we have spoken of, artificial intelligence, quantum, everything is important. But we have to progressively put it in the larger whole. And finally, let me come to the point that every narrative that you hear of dealing with China says we should build our comprehensive national power and the cutting edge of comprehensive national power. There's no doubt about it. But in building that comprehensive national power, we have to consider that we have to build it in all the terrains, for all the domains, and we have to build it from the money that we have in our pocket. And towards that, we have to make a clear distinction between building operational capability for here and now and building self-reliance for tomorrow and beyond. Now, unfortunately, what is happening is that we are mixing up between Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, and our operational capability. Many of us, on number of occasions, when called upon to tell how operationally prepared we are, we give the narrative of what defense exports we have done. 68% of budget we have given to acquisition from our indigenous industries. How many MSMEs have we nurtured? It's important, but let's make a distinction to build our capability. So I will end by saying we have a major power at our doorsteps. We have to fight him in all domains. We have stood by very commendably, but let's think about it in a larger perspective across all domains. Thank you.
Thank you. We have recently read reports that Chinese base in Djibouti has now the capability of berthing an aircraft carrier and submarines too. And this relates to your question that you asked the previous panel. That the Navy needs to project all this to the powers that be, so that we realize that there is a domain which needs a lot of emphasis, and the Navy, when they talk of their power, they actually have the map of India and the north